Will continue to do whatever I can. One day, Senator, I'll have the honor of seeing you in the White House and being by your side, I hope. Okay.
So I just want to say, first of all, thank you to our previous speaker for being so generous and pausing and letting me come here amidst a busy day. I continue to see my colleague here every single time, who is a man who he may not be holding a Senate office right now, but he's one of these demonstrators that shows that leadership is not a title or position, it's action and example, and I'm grateful for his presence here today, as always. I come with a heavy heart, and I want to say it's difficult to stand here with the faces of martyrs behind me. It's difficult because I know the sacrifice the people behind me have made for a cause that has been dear to me and my family in America for generations. Tragically, there's no great nation that is free that hasn't had martyrs willing to stand and give their best measure of devotion to their nation and to their cause. But to honor those who have died, we, the living, have to stand even stronger, more committed. To honor their sacrifice, we too must sacrifice, God willing, not with our lives, but with our unyielding, indefatigable, unconquerable commitment to a cause. And I've said this before here, when Iranian people, when Persian people stand up for freedom and for justice, it is not just about Iran, it is this affirmation of a truth that a man far greater than me spoke about when Martin Luther King said that we are all caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a common garment of destiny, that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. I want to be clear with you that this is a cause and an issue that is not partisan. It is not left or right, it is right or wrong. And the freedom of the Iranian people is vital. It is the right cause, not just for those who love Iran, who love the Persian people, who love the legacy of one of the greatest civilizations ever in humanity, but we see that how Iran is interwoven with the entire story of the Middle East, how it is woven in, as we see now, to the entire world economy. But as the speaker who preceded me so eloquently said, I felt like she's saying it all. Why would I interrupt her? Is that we will not achieve peace by bombing from above. History has shown us that you do not achieve regime change through unleashing some of the most devastating weapons ever created in humanity from above. What you see is tragic mistakes made, like little girls dying in a school. What you see is thousands of Persians now having died unjustly, unnecessarily in this war. I know what was going on before this war was wholly unacceptable, when people were standing up and rising up for their freedom, and this regime butchered them in the most vile imaginable ways. But the answer to violence is not more violence. And so I stand here with an urgency, watching a war go on that has achieved little to no strategic objectives that we've set. It has not led to regime change. If anything, it's empowered the IRGC and more extremists. It hasn't led to the end of their nuclear capabilities. The fissile, highly enriched fissile material is still there in that nation. It hasn't led to some unconditional surrender. If anything, the regime has found more power by choking the Straits of Hormuz and making us fall into a global economic oil shock and higher prices being felt from Asia to New Jersey. And so I want to thank this room. I have now, for years of working on this, I have deeply close friends here who are showing me grace and kindness, but more importantly, showing me what my ancestors in this country, my black ancestors and my white ancestors who stood up for freedom in America, they are showing me that same tradition as Americans in their unyielding commitment. I want to make clear before I go that the horrible stakes of endless wars and the fact that there is no military solution to ending this war, that I am going to do everything I can in the United States Senate to push us as a body to hold hearings, to debate, to discuss what's going on in Iran right now. We have not, since this war outbroke, had one open hearing to discuss and even debate the issues that we hold common ground on. There is not a senator in this body, not one of the 100 of us, that don't want to free Iran. But why aren't we having a marketplace of ideas in the world's most deliberative body? Why aren't we holding accountable any administration? Because whatever you believe about the current one, no administration is perfect. This body that you are in right now, the Senate, was formed, if you look at the Federalist Papers, Federalist Paper number 47 said the Senate was created to provide a check and a balance to an administration that may overstep its bounds. That we have a role to play in the pursuit of a more perfect union and more justice at home and abroad. And so I am going to use every procedural power I have to force us to have the deeper discussions, the more vital debates about how we bring about not just an end to the war, but how we bring about what we all want, which is a free Iranian people. And so I will end with this. I've been blessed when I came to the Senate that my colleague, never a colleague of mine, my mentor, a man named Bill Bradley from New Jersey, a senator, told me the best thing you can do is to try to have real relationships with people across the aisle. Try to honor them. You may disagree, but understand you have shared humanity and that you both love this country. I tried to do what he told me, and when I first got here, I tried to go on this odyssey of meeting with all of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, and I couldn't get on this one guy's schedule. And finally, I got 15 minutes, they told me, that I could sit down with this lion of the Senate. I'm a new guy, a young guy in the Senate, and he agreed to meet with for 15 minutes. I was actually nervous, that I can confess that now. He's now since passed, but I was nervous. I'm days in the Senate, and I get a chance to go meet with John McCain. And I go into his office, and I will never forget, they told me 15 minutes, but I started looking at his wall, so it looked like a museum of these extraordinary pictures from American history, and I start asking him, and he starts opening up and telling me stories until I got to the Vietnam War, which is not a great chapter. In fact, it's a time that teaches all of us that bombing a nation is not going to bring about regime change. And I'll never forget, he opened a filing cabinet and pulled out these documents, and he cradled them as if they were living and still being processed by him. And he showed me not only documents about his time as a prisoner of war, but he showed me a picture of his lifeless body being carried after his plane crashed out by Vietnamese soldiers. But the story that I want to end with is a story he told me that so moved me, I included it in the book I just wrote, in a chapter about patriotism. And my argument in the chapter is patriotism is never brash and loud. It is the quiet devotion to the ideals of this country and to the people of this country. Our greatest patriots did acts of devotion that were not seen, not televised. And here's John McCain telling me this story about Mike Christensen in this POW camp that asked for scraps of paper, of cloth rather, that he brought together, different color cloth, and on the inside of a jacket, he put an American flag. And every night, he said, when they were getting ready to settle down for the night, he would hang the jacket up so the American flag was facing them, and they would put their hands on their hearts and pledge allegiance to that flag. And he said it was like this reaffirmation of faith not just in a flag, not just in a nation, but to her ideals, to the enduring ideals of freedom and justice. One day, the Vietnamese prison guards found the flag, dragged Mike Christian out, and beat him within inches of his life. He was thrown back in, and John McCain said his face was all swollen up. He was so badly beaten. And they tended to his wounds, and they were going to bed, and he said he fell asleep, and then he woke up. And there he said he saw in the corner of the structure Mike Christensen sitting with a bamboo needle, face swollen, hands shaking, and he was again sewing together an American flag. I want you all to know that I hope in my lifetime I have opportunities to show the level of patriotism of some of the men and women I've served with in this body. I hope that I have the opportunity to show the level of patriotism that so many Americans do, those that fight our fires, that patrol our streets, that serve in our military, that teach our children. Their quiet patriotism is how we've sustained this nation. But I want you to know that when we pledge allegiance to the flag, all of us in this room as Americans, when we put our hands over the hearts, remember, we end with those words, with liberty and justice for all. It is not just an American ideal. All people deserve liberty. All people deserve justice. The people of Iran will be free. Thank you.